Hey there. Well, today I wanted to come out here and I wanted to share with you how this year's grafting did. I grafted this tree this year, as you all know that follow me, and it's doing absolutely tremendous. Uh, this growth right here on top, man, I'm looking at 2.5 to 3 foot of growth right there. This tree right here is probably about a 6-year-old seedling that I had bought from an Amish tree farmer 2 or 3 years ago, probably about 3 years ago, and I planted it here, 2018, and it took off very well. It was in a burlap when I got it from the Amish guy, and it had flower sets in it this year, and all the growth from last year's growth I took out, including the flower sets, everything I took out. And I grafted a series of grafts into this tree. From what I could tell, all the grafts did take, although there is a few of the grafts that stalled, which I had that happen last year with a tree on the other side of the chicken pen. That the grafts came out, they stalled, they stayed green, had a little stem coming off the scion wood, maybe about 1.5 to 2 inches long. And this year, whenever the season started to wake everything up, those grafts took off. And I suspect the same thing will happen here because there's three, three grafts in there that had stalled. The rest of them took off. There's a total of 11 pieces of scion that went in there. And I tell you, I'm very, very pleased. Look at that. That's taller than I am. And like I said, that's about a 6-year-old seedling. And as you all know, one here behind me, that's one I grafted. The difference between this one and that one, as I pointed out before, it's a mango, converted to a mango, and it was a root sucker that I planted in 2018, and it's very robust. It's even wider than Rigel, but it was not ready to come out of puberty whenever I grafted into it. It was just a 2-year-old sitting there when I grafted into it, and it took off. This year makes the third year that it's been in the ground right there. It's grown robustly, and there's no flower sets in that. This one right here, I grafted this year. It had flower sets in it. It was breaking puberty, and now some of the scion in here that has grown, or some of the new growth, there's flower buds in here. Not a tremendous amount, but some. And I will not let that fruit next year because I want to make sure all of these graftings that took place mend. I got a lot going on, a lot of plans ticking around up there. The tree over there to the right of this one right here, when it goes dormant, I'm going to dig it up. It's getting moved and relocated. And that's being relocated over by an apple tree, the project that I have going on upstairs once again. And that tree will no longer be there. NC1, that tree is only 2 years old and it's doing very fine as well. But I just basically wanted to come out here and share what is going on with this tree. I mean, it's tremendous. Like right here, let me throw that down. Right here is growth coming from the scion, and there's a limb right here that's coming out of that as well. And there's another one right here, which I know you can't see, but I got my main limb coming up from the scion, and there's little limbs growing out of that as well. Very, very vigorous grower. And I think a lot of that, like right here's one, limb from the scion. There's a little branch coming up here, a branch right here, a branch right here. It's just, and another one right there. It's just boosting. And a lot of that I think is because the tree was so much older than the other tree behind me, and it's able to push all that energy into this top growth. But my word, like I said, that is taller than I am. These three trees, that one, this one, and the one right there, which I'll be grafting next year, are going to remain where they are. And I haven't decided what variety I'm going to put in that tree, but I'm going to have open pollination going on between these three right here whenever the time comes. And for now, some of the trees I have scattered are bigger trees. They're going to be hand pollinated because the distance between trees. And then one day I won't have to hand pollinate because they're close enough together they'll be able to pollinate one another. But anyways, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pan the camera around a little bit and show you something that I'm looking at up the hill behind the chicken coop. Is another graft that I did that I haven't covered a whole lot this year. That graft really took off very well, and that graft, by the way, is called an overlease. Anyways, Rigel, man, can't believe how well that graft is done. Let me pan the camera around for you. The tree that's getting grafted next year. Let me zoom in. You really can't see it because of the shade. Let me walk up to it. Zoom back out. Sorry about the movement. This was a smaller tree, about a 5-year-old seedling, once again from the Amish farmer. And as you can see, it's growing very well. It's reaching out, it's pushing up. I got about 2.5 foot of growth right there. That's more than 2.5 foot right there. You got about 2 foot. It took off very well, although I have one graft that did not take, and I have another graft. It too did the stalling, but it's still alive. And we'll see how this here turns out as time goes on. But man, is that looking nice or not? I'm very, very pleased with how this graft has done. This one right here incidentally had 9 different grafts, and out of the 9, 8 of them has taken off. And you can see that's a nice looking little tree. That's an overlease. I'm very, very pleased with the grafting that took place this year. This was grafted this year, and that's got it's got 3 bark inlay grafts, by the way, and all 3 of those bark inlay grafts took off. It was at the end of the limbs. The scion was a little small, so I just cut a slit and tucked in behind the bark and taped it up, and they took off. And the scion pretty much has completely wrapped around the end of that one, almost around that one, and pretty much around that one. And it really, really took off greatly for me. Anyways, just something I wanted to share with you. Got it out here by the apple tree. And if you look a little bit to the right, tucked way back there, there's an oak that I did a bark inlay to last year, and it too is doing very well. I'll be planting pawpaws around this apple tree. That's the reason why I said I was going to dig that one up. I got a little theory in mind that I've shared last year, and I'm going to continue on with that theory. I got a friend of mine, we're going to do the same thing with his apple tree. Man, that looks good. Anyways, my name's Jim. If you like what you see, subscribe. Don't forget to click on that bell for notifications. Any comments or questions that you may have, I welcome. Y'all have a God bless day.